I prefer horror films
Why is that?
because they're more scarier, more threatening and more blood.
Into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
The trend is so popular that some stores have devoted entire shelves to this gory stuff under the horror label, but this isn't regular horror pictures. This is stuff that is simply blood and guts. And
the police have raided many video shops in the past months. In this North London shop, for instance, they took away the so-called nasty videos, but they left behind the cassette boxes. The attached wrappings say simply not to be seen by those of nervous disposition.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Justin here. As always, guys, thank you for stopping by and hanging out with me today. Today, we're going to be talking about Prano Bailey Bond's directorial feature debut, Censor. Censor is an adaptation of the director's own short film entitled Nasty, which I haven't been able to track down. I really want to see this short film. It will, in fact, be included in the Blu-ray release of Censor, which will be coming out from Vinegar Syndrome in just a couple weeks. It was actually initially slated to be a 4K release, but for whatever logistical or legal reasons, it's now been downgraded to a 1080p release, which is fine. This movie would actually be perfectly at home on a VHS release because of the gritty nature of the cinematography and the time period the movie takes place in 1985. So I'm really looking forward to picking up that Blu-ray, giving it another watch, and checking out Nasty, the short film, the source material for Censor. Censor takes place in the UK in 1985, right smack dab in the middle of the VHS store boom. Every week, hundreds of horror movies were hitting the shelves of video stores, often bypassing the studios and going directly to these mom and pop shops. In the middle of the 80s, this was a very conservative time for a lot of countries, including the US and the UK. At this point in time, the governments thought it was their righteous duty to protect the people and save them from all of these evil horror movies flooding the store shelves at the time, either heavily censoring these movies and chopping them down, or just flat out banning them like they did with a lot of films. I'm not an expert on the video nasty era by any means, but I do know that at one point there were up to 80 films that were banned on the BBFC, the British Board of Film Classification. So a pretty stacked list of films that were just all out banned that I think were finally officially unbanned in the early 2000s, but this was a big deal. It was someone's duty not only to comb through every single one of these films that came across their desk, but decide to heavily cut and neuter these movies or just flat out ban them, protecting them from the public's eye. And that's precisely the job of our main character in Censor, Enid. She plays a censor in the BBFC in 1985. Enid is played wonderfully by Irish actress Niamh Algar. She's fantastic in this movie. Some of you might have seen her in Raised by Wolves, and she's done a couple of other things. She's really great in this movie. It's really cool to sort of be in the passenger seat of what it might have been for a censor in the 1980s as she puts in the VHS tape, watches it, and decides how much of this decapitation can be shown or how much of this eye gouging needs to be cut out.
This depiction is dangerous.
Come on, Enid.
I'm cutting it.
But as much as Censor is about the video nasty era and the politics of cinema and censorship in the UK, it's really an in-depth sort of character study of our main character. As we go along with Enid throughout this story, we find out that she has a particularly personal investment in protecting society from the evil that happens in these horror movies. She lost her sister at a young age. Her sister disappeared while she was with her when they were both children, but she doesn't remember what happened. She remembers being with her sister, and then she remembers her sister being missing. There's a big gap in time where she just doesn't remember what happened. This, of course, sort of derailed her entire life, her relationship with her parents, her own mental health, being that her sister disappeared in her presence. But one day a film comes across her desk that seems to have a lot of eerie similarities to what she does remember about the day that her sister disappeared. The movie shows a couple of young girls in the woods where one girl walks into a house and is never seen again. I'm not spoiling anything. There's a lot of mystery to this movie, and that's what a lot of this movie is about. Her diving, sort of going on this descent into madness into this particular director, his notorious films, and their connection to the disappearance of her sister. We find out that this particular director and this film could hold the clues to finding out the mystery that happened so long ago. Now, an interesting aspect to this movie is that it is her job to protect society from all these nasty sequences of gore and violence in the movies that she watches, but still every day, day in, day out, she is exposed to watching all this movie, and she's in a very vulnerable, emotional position. She tries to protect everybody from these movies. The movies just may be affecting her in ways that she doesn't even realize. Now, this movie isn't packed with wall-to-wall gore, but there is some great sequences of bloody carnage that you get to see for all of us horror fans. You get a really cool peek behind the curtain into the VHS era of the 1980s. You get some great performances, super moody atmosphere. This movie has a very specific look to it with lots of film grain and cool lighting that is very reminiscent of the movie shot in the late 70s, early 80s when this movie is taking place. This movie deals a lot with grief and how that can affect your psyche and affect your mental health. Enid, our main character, is really going through it in this movie. Some may find this movie a little bit abstract or strange. It isn't going to be for everyone. Some may find the ending to be a little ambiguous depending on how you view it. I have my personal interpretation. I think it's pretty black and white the way it ends, but a lot of people feel that it is somewhat of an ambiguous ending. Overall, I would definitely recommend Censor to my audience. It may not be for everybody. This is going to be for your more dedicated horror fans, especially those who are super into the VHS, the mom and pop VHS store era of the 1980s. If you're into character studies, movies that particularly follow one character into sort of their descent into madness, I think you'll really dig this movie. A little bit of gore, a little bit of carnage, but great performances overall. I really dug it. So guys, if you have seen Censor, definitely let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. If you'll be picking up the Blu-ray from Vinegar Syndrome. And guys, I think we're done here, guys. Stay weird. Remember to always be yourself, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.